Google Search Console index coverage. Now that we have a new Search Console coming up, it's still in testing stage. So if you're looking at this and seeing some index coverage warnings, errors, there's some valid, there's some excluded, and you think to yourself, you know what are these? You can always press on the question mark icon to kind of understand what these mean, but if you're not experienced, then looking at this still doesn't really tell you what's really going on, as in, excluded. In my scenario, there's 1,000 something pages excluded. So yours may be, let's say, 10,000 if you are managing a WooCommerce site, for example. And then you may think, well, is that okay to have? So this particular video session that I'm creating will be for perhaps advanced website owners, as an advanced knowledge, because we're going to cover many different options to fix some of these warnings and so on as well, okay? Keep in mind, with errors, I've created information as to how to fix them, but that basically didn't really cover the in-depth fixing of errors, because it may be the case the errors that you're seeing are not to do with, let's say, WordPress. So how do you fix them? Just remember, whether they are warnings, let's press on warnings. Let's press on the warning. Here it's saying, okay, you know what? This particular URL, it's indexed through robots.txt, but it is blocked by robots.txt file. Okay, so we're going to explore all them in a second. But just realize that if you're seeing errors, that's where you need to focus, because it's the errors that you need to fix. Everything else, still you need to fix warnings and so on, but they are not as important as the errors, okay? Keep that in mind. So in this scenario, I'm not going to cover errors because it seems that I don't have any errors, but I have warnings here, 11 of them. Here it's saying index though blocked by robots.txt. So let's go and see what that means. When you place robots.txt, you're gonna see something here. That's why Search Console index coverage warnings are telling you, you know what? In this example, we have indexed these pages, and yet somehow there is a directive in robots.txt file that is blocking us. So I'll show you how to actually fix that in a second as well, okay? But let's go and press on this particular warning. On the right hand side here, it's telling us, you know what? You can test robots.txt blocking, because it's going to show us where it's blocked. Now I can see, you know what? I need to delete this page, this directive. But remember, if I delete this here, this is Search Console. That means it's not going to reflect here. So Search Console is a tool for you to test things, because once I've deleted that directive, I have another one saying, you know what? Now that is blocking this particular URL. That means Google can't access that page. It's not crawling. So let's delete that as well. Let's test it again. Now it's saying the directives here will allow us to see what is on this page. Okay. So let me highlight everything here. Let me Control C on my keyboard. And I'm going to use my local copy because we're looking at the same file, same robots.txt. That means these two directives, I've just deleted it. So if I highlight everything, delete, Control V to paste. Here, the directive specifically for Google does not have these. Now, why do I have this though? And it's actually smart, I think, to have directives specific for Google and also specific to other search engines, because Google is not the only search engine. But if I then say, you know what, I want to delete those two directives for other search engines as well, I can do that, because this line here is covering all the other search engines, as in user agents. So now I can Control S, as in save, and put this file back online. Now, how else can I remedy that? If you're using WordPress and using Yoast SEO plugin, then from your dashboard you can log into your dashboard, go to SEO, go to Tools, then go to File Editor, and here it should give you access to your robots.txt file, whereby you can include or delete certain directives. Okay, now right now I'm going to also show you how else you can access that robots.txt file, and you can do that through your web hosting. So I'm covering many different scenarios and options just in case some of them don't work for you. Okay, go to File Manager, go to Document Root, Show Hidden Folders. That makes no difference because robots.txt file is not a hidden file. Here under public_HTML, that's the usual server setup naming convention. You can download it. That's just a smart habit to have before you modify any files. Right click, press on Edit, and here you could easily delete these directives. Save changes. Now, next time Google requests a URL from your website, what it will do is it will actually request this particular URL, because that's what it does. Before it can access any part of your website, by the rules governing internet, Google must look into this file to see what it can access and what it cannot access. So right now, if I refresh this page, I don't have those directives that is blocking Google. So if I grab everything, Ctrl+C on my keyboard, as in copy, go back to robots.txt tester, delete everything within it, because this is just a testing tool, right? And I paste everything. Now if I request this URL, it should be allowed for Google to see. Now, why was that warning given to me? It was because of Google can't see the page from robots.txt. That's what these right hand side options are there for you. As you can see, there are other options. You could fetch as Google and say, okay, can Google now fetch that URL? So we're doing another test, because right now it should be able to fetch that URL, whether completely or partial. I'll actually wait till that is fetched. Here it's saying not found still. But the fact is, page can't be found. Well, in this particular example, I can say to myself, you know what? That's a warning, and yet that page is not there. So that's a 404. Make sense? And looking at this, I can actually make a judgment to say, you know what? These other URLs looks like it is following the same naming convention. So that means I can now request them to see if that page is on my website. In this example, it isn't. But what I want to do is actually show you an insight. It says valid with warnings. Indexed. Now that's an issue in itself. Why is that an issue in itself? Is because I have to ask myself, why did Google index this URL and yet it's not on my website? I can say info : search Google like so. No information is available for this page, but Google is aware of this page that does not exist. I know it's rather confusing, right? So what I need to do right now is do nothing, because if this page is not around, then it shouldn't be in Google, right? But it was showing the warnings because it cannot see what is on that URL. But right now it can, because I've just removed the directive telling Google not to see that page. Now it can request that page and realize that page does not exist. So therefore that will be classified as 404 page not found, which then is just a warning but not an error. That's why Fetch as Google couldn't find that page. So let's go and take a look at what else we can do. View as search results. So I could do that search right from here. Makes sense? So Search Console gives us that option. Here it also says submit to index. In this warning example, that wouldn't be smart for me to press on submit to index, because this page, it does not exist. So why should I submit it? Okay, let's press on index coverage menu option. Here we have our sitemaps. So we can say, okay, they were for pages. How about posts? There are, okay, let's go back to pages, because all submitted, all known pages. Okay, this is actually smart to understand what's really going on here. Here it says all known pages. So then it would be smart for me to press on page sitemap. Here there is no errors or warnings either for pages, but these are all known pages. What that means is, once upon a time Google was aware of a page that looks like this, but right now, because it can't see it, well, isn't it can now because we removed the directive, that's why it couldn't understand what was really going on with that page, thus giving us warnings. But right now I can say, you know what, I don't have to worry about this, because whether it is this page, I can test that as well to see what is blocking. Here it's blocking this. I'll remove that. And I'll remove that from here as well. Save changes. Grab everything here and test in here. That's allowed now. That means Google will now see this URL. Okay, this is the easy way to fix it. But I'm telling Google not to index that page using directives that I actually can't share here. Because getting this wrong, you'll actually lose your entire indexation of your website. But to provide tips for you, remember, what Google should index on your site is the content that you want Google to rank. All the other paginated content, perhaps archives, data archives and so on, or tags and all this, you shouldn't let Google index those pages. That is the case for 99.9% of websites. I know I'm going through many angles, but as I've said at the beginning, this is perhaps for website owners who actually do have advanced knowledge about using Search Console. Because to be able to fix this, you actually need to understand what is the best practice. And I'm trying to share that insight with you. So let's go look at valid. Index coverage valid. What does this mean? Valid. It says submitted and indexed. These are all the pages submitted and Google is indexed. Everything is looking good. Excluded, let's press on that. There is some redirection. There's that many of them. Excluded by no index. There is this many amount. Let's press on this to see what's going on with these URLs. Yeah, these do not exist on my website, so these are really old. So historical data is Google is showing here, which by now all of these are fixed anyway. So I can say, you know what, they should be excluded. As in, I control what Google see. Soft 404, you don't have to worry about it. Blocked by robots, yes, that could be, yeah, tag, paginated content. I want Google to not crawl them. But my blog is rather a small site. What if you have an e-commerce site with many products? Then you need to worry about how Google crawls your website, especially if you're updating them. Okay, these are valid 21 URLs that is not in sitemap. Some of them are legitimate, as in robots.txt, indexed but not submitted in sitemap. What does that mean? That means your sitemap post pages, see index coverage of post sitemap. Okay, I need to go back to the old Search Console. Go to the old version to show you an insight for you to always keep an eye on. And that is this. You submit your sitemap. Yeah, your sitemap has certain URLs, certain images. You may not have images, you may have videos and whatnot, right? Depending on the type of website that you have. Now let's press on post sitemap. Here, what I've submitted is 150. What Google has indexed is 149. What you want for your website or any other type of website is you want both of those pages either equal to each other or as closely as equal to. Because if I'm seeing huge difference between what I've submitted and what Google has indexed, then you're definitely doing something wrong on your website. Make sense? Because you're submitting URL for Google to index, and yet Google is seeing them and not indexing them. Make sense? So if you want a truly optimized website, you always need to keep an eye on what you submitted and what Google has indexed. Now, there could be two different reasons as to why there is a huge discrepancy between those two numbers. One is the usefulness of your content, and it, as in its originality, compared to, if you have very similar content throughout your website. So then you can basically look at that number and kind of get an understanding as to the quality of your entire website's URL in terms of keywords, content. Makes sense? Because this content that you create, whether it's blog posts, whether it's product pages, they need to be unique and useful. That's why just having a website, thinking that, you know what, I'm on internet and I have a website, and you leave search engine optimization aside, that means you're losing money because you're wasting time. Your website can be much better once you understand how the Search Console is used to your advantage. Now, I'm not going to go more in depth because for Search Console, there is a lot of things that you need to learn over time. But no problems, because Rank Your YouTube channel maintains Search Console course that is free for you to learn from. Keep in mind, the new Search Console is basically giving us a bit more data, in a sense that before we only had 3 months time to see. Now you can go back in time 13 months to analyze certain things with the new Search Console, okay? What I'm trying to tell you is the features and options available to you basically are similar. That is why Google Webmaster Tools, which was Search Console previously called Webmaster Tools, I maintain a full course on that. That means any feature that you want to learn, you can explore these videos. Keep in mind, I will be adding more and more and more, okay? Because of this new Search Console. But nonetheless, always make sure that robots.txt directives, you test it to see what Google can see and what it cannot. And remember, this is to do with Google accessing certain URLs or certain parts of your website. It's not to do with indexing. But if you have blockages here, then if Google can't access those URLs, that means it can't see directives within it. That means for a typical WordPress setup, this is a paginated content, which I don't want Google to see. Thus, I control it with no index robot directives. Because it's paginated content, there is nothing unique here. However, before he was complaining because he couldn't see what's on this page. But now I removed that directive from robots.txt. Now, next time it comes, it's gonna say, okay, now I can see that URL, and I can see there is no index directive. That means that index coverage warning will disappear. Make sense? So at the end of the day, always keep an eye on errors and warnings. You can surely remedy them by using robots.txt changes. You can use no index directives. Actually, this is smart to use. In fact, if you're not using this on your WordPress site, regardless of type of WordPress site that you have, then your website is not optimized. But nonetheless, Search Console, all the features for the old version is still here. The new version will actually still follow similar approaches in terms of submitting sitemaps, looking at search appearance, and so on. And with the new Search Console, there are some new coming soon features, and I will make videos accordingly. Now, if your website is important, and what I've just bombarded on you, even though you have advanced knowledge, and at this moment you still believe, you know what, that's just too complicated for me, then for a limited time and for a small fee, I can actually remedy sitemap as in indexation issues, fix up robots.txt, control indexation, only for WordPress sites. So if you're interested in that, shoot me an email from my blog and we take things from there. Remember, that will include a small fee for me to fix it for your typical WordPress setup. And I will need Search Console access accordingly as well, okay? In either case, keep at it in 2018 because you want to take advantage of all these new changes Google is making because of mobile first indexation coming soon. I thank you very much for learning with me. If you benefited from this video session, please do give it a like and share it, and I'll talk with you in the next video session.